When comes my numbered day, I will meet it smiling, for I'll have kept this oath. I shall use my arms to shield the weak, shall use my lips to speak the truth, and my eyes to seek it. Shall use my hand to meet justice to high and low, nor will weigh all things with heart and mind. Where I walk, the laws will follow, for I am the sword of my people and the shepherd of their lands. When I fall, I will rise through my brothers and sisters, for I am eternal. Hail, and welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I am your host, Liam, aka Himvar. Today I'll be doing a spoiler-free review of Howard Andrew Jones's For the Killing of Kings. For the Killing of Kings is a modern sword and sorcery tale with great action in a high fantasy world. It's in Zelaznian style, or so I've heard, as I've unbelievably still not read any Zelazny as of yet. It's specifically advertised as Zelazny meets Three Musketeers. S.E. Lindbergh more accurately replaces Three Musketeers with King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table, which is very accurate in my mind. It was published in 2019 as the first of the Ring-Sworn Trilogy. The third and final book was released earlier this year, so jump on this, it's complete. The prologue sets up recent events as a man goes to visit the grave of Nlar, his good friend who was once commander of the Altenarai, the Queen's Guard of sorts, that also protect the Allied realms. The man is not actually named, though we know some about him, and are later able to guess his identity as well. Then Chapter 1 gives us the aging Altenarai, Azran, checking on Nlar's sword, Urian. The sword is tied up with a prophecy about the death of the king of the Naor. This chapter is basically another prologue, a little slow to start, but things are ramped up by the end of this chapter. Elena is our main character. She's a young squire of the Altenarai. She doesn't have the greatest amounts of personality, but it isn't grating, and she certainly comes more into her character as the story progresses. She does have to deal with the death that crops up around her as she grows into an experienced Altenarai. Kirkanal is also pretty important. He is the salty drunk mentor of sorts, though he is actually not very good at teaching, but is very deadly with arrow and blade. We do have a couple chapters from some other characters. Most notably, we get some from Rylan, which really help with the pacing of the story. He's an Altenarai, but one of the younger holders of the Sapphire Ring. During his chapters, we also get to see Varama, who is one of my favorite characters. She's an older, blue-skinned Altenarai that's a bit eccentric. His characters are all brave, which is a nice thing, common in the genre. It was nice having characters that didn't doubt themselves all the time, honestly. A conspiracy is afoot, and any murdered seems to be the answer for those who catch on to that conspiracy. There's also a great twist halfway through the book, and though it was foreshadowed, I didn't guess it. Also, just for your information, most of this book, or much of it, is one party pursuing another, so it is kind of a chase story as well. The Altenarai are facing a split in their once unified group, a disaster right when the borders with the Naor are weak, and the return of an ancient entity may be nigh. There's a strong sense of a better past, of friends being gone, of strength failing in more ways than one. But these are some themes I recognized. The combat here is brutal and swift, but not overly detailed and gross. This is sword and sorcery, not grimdark. Each melee is over very quickly, certainly not drawn out. The world building is good too and explored gradually throughout. Veneration and deification of the dead seems to be a thing, as the general Nlar is highly regarded on the extreme, and the main gods are openly discussed as having walked the earth and built their cities, so presumably were once mortals, though you kind of have to read the story to figure out more about that. Like the genre normally has, there are terrifying beasts that have a sort of cosmic horror element to them. These beasts lived in places of unreality, so the outer darkness, but it isn't so far away. In many places, the lands shift and change, with small pockets being permanent and being real. This isn't thrown at you at once, because it can surely be a little confusing since it's not your typical setting. We also have Kobolin in this world, which are humanoid creatures with an odd honor system. The Naor seem to be humans, but not ones that worship the four main gods, and they're considered barbaric. There are also the Ko-Ae, which I sort of saw as dragons that are scaled and feathered. The magic is soft but still well developed, and we do see a lot of magic in this book. A kind of magical relic that enhances power is introduced early on, and the consequences of utilizing them deals with addiction and a sort of corruption. It meets the ticks for modern epic fantasy pretty well. In fact, to me, it mostly seemed like Sword of Sorcery masquerading as modern epic fantasy, so it could sell more, but maybe that's just me. It's fast, the scope gets large as the story progresses, which is one thing that's not very typical of Sword and Sorcery, which is mainly focused on smaller conflicts, though they're not unheard of course, as well. The story ends up with more being done and plots developing more than I had anticipated. I'm not quite sure where books 2 and 3 will go, but I am excited to find out because this was a great first entry into a new and exciting series by Howard Andrew Jones. This was part of my readings for Sword and Sorcery November, which of course is the month I'm focusing mostly on Sword and Sorcery. I don't believe this is really popular among my circle. I know Bryce from Shelf Centered has it on his TBR, but if any of you have read this, let me know what your thoughts are, and if you have not read this and have watched this review and now want to, let me know. I am in a Discord server with this author along with some other contemporary Sword and Sorcery authors. I may link the Whetstone Sword and Sorcery Discord server in the description if I remember. But anyways, thank you for watching. This has been Liam with Liam's Lyceum. I'll catch you next time.